It's episode 541 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. On today's episode, I'm talking with the OG Grant Schiller about all kinds of prospect goodness, my top 30, what I was thinking with those, which rankings I almost immediately regret, which ones I feel very confident in, and which ones have been completely vindicated by the great Kylie McDaniel. I am your host, Brice Paterik. If you're not already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube. I've been covering the Texas Rangers, living and breathing this team through the highs, the lows since 2014. Well, I've been living the highs and lows since then, but I've been, writing or podcasting or doing all kinds of good stuff since then. Nearly 10 seasons. This is my 9th season covering this team, so I have seen it all: the highs, the lows, the very lows of this year. But all that kind of good stuff and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And even just a few years ago, like would you say 2018 or 2019 was like the bottom of the barrel in terms of like how bad the system was? Maybe was 2017 worse?
Well, I would go 18 or 19 just because all the arms were hurt.
That's fair.
You had all your interesting arms were hurt, so you didn't see any of the prospects on that side at least.
Yeah, and at that point it was like, who even was the top 30? It was like Leote, who never really had some big outing in the minor leagues, and it was a bunch of hurt arms and
Tejeda,
yeah, and Huff was doing interesting things back then, but still, it's like, I don't know, it was a long time ago. And Dustin Harris hopping on, a lot of these guys, almost all these guys, just a decent chunk of them had been in the system before, but I feel like almost half of these guys are either new to the system or I never thought about them before. Almost half these guys in my top 30 were guys who I barely thought about it before. Cody Bradford, Dane Acker, I had not thought about it at all before. Acosta had been pretty consistently up there, but I mean the top 10 is, but even the top 10 has quite a few guys that I would not have put there before. Duran, he wouldn't have been top 5, but Owen White breaking out. Dustin Harris, I probably had hover a little bit higher than he should have been, but Enriquez and Alexi and Kent, those guys all legit breakout seasons. There's just so many guys, because in 2020 you didn't have anything, and in 2019 it felt like nobody really had a breakout season. Maybe even 2018 too. It's just a couple guys.
I'm looking at the 2018 top 30 prospect list, and I'm looking at a top 5 of Cole Winn right after he'd been drafted, Hans Kraus, Bubba Thompson, Julio Pablo Martinez, and Leote.
Oh gosh, Leote wasn't even top 3. Man, they were really high on JPM. Is he still in the system even?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He was in Double A last year.
Okay, because I remember getting eyes on him, and I was like, I've seen him quite a bit, and have never been that impressed. I mean, maybe he'll end up being a big leaguer in some capacity, but I don't even know about that. I mean, was that your kind of read on him as well?
I'm sorry, who was this?
Julio Pablo Martinez.
Emergency call-up, maybe. I mean, he's not... He pretty quickly, once he came stateside, was shown to not be it. Just not what you're hoping to get for the money they spent for him.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But there's so many right-handed pitchers in here, and a lot of infielders. And I'm curious. I want to start with the infielders, because of these guys, obviously your top 10 middle infielders. You've got Duran, you've got Foscue, you've got Smith, Acuna. Yeah, those are the only ones in my top 10. But I'm curious, of those guys, how quickly do you think, especially the guys at the upper levels like Smith and Duran specifically, and maybe even Foscue, how quickly do you think they start looking at those guys in the outfield because of the big signings in the middle infield? Unless they're just pretty sure these guys are already just going to be pretty good backups.
So I think Foscue probably just is an outfielder in general. Like he might be able to handle second base, but he's not going to be very good there. So moving him to left field might be best for his career, just regardless of who the Rangers' middle infield is. So I think they'll get him some looks out there pretty quickly. Duran, I think, has played a little bit of outfield. So I wouldn't be surprised if he plays some. Acuna's a middle infielder. Like, that dude's a shortstop. He's going to stay there. He's also so far away, there's no reason to really worry about it yet.
Oh, yeah. I feel like he and who else did I have right there? He and Acosta are the ones that are like right when they're getting ready. I feel like that's about the time when you start looking at those your two big guys of maybe moving off the middle infield. I mean, I think we talked about it before, but I'm pretty sure that Semien is going to stay at second base longer than Seager is going to stay at shortstop, even though he's like, what, 3 years older than him?
Yep. Totally agree. And then Smith can definitely handle the middle infield. Might be a little bit more of second base and shortstop, although it's not terrible over there. But I know he has expressed some willingness to play some outfield. I think he said they haven't talked to him about it yet, but he's ready to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some time in center this year. He's not like lightning quick, not your typical center field speed.
Not to but I looked up Duran and he has not played any outfield. Okay. I was thinking that he would be one too, because like I think there was some mention of him possibly being a center fielder. Of those two, of Smith and Duran, who do you think would be a better center fielder defensively?
I would guess Smith. I haven't seen Duran yet, but I think Smith's quicker, and I think he's a little bit more quick twitch. So my guess would be that he's a better center fielder, but that's pretty much just going in blind with Duran.
No, I think quick twitch. I think he is more quick twitch because he's played more and better defensively at shortstop. But I think the straight line speed, I think Duran has the edge. So that was what I was thinking. Like maybe he is a better center fielder because he can cover more ground. But I mean, we've seen in Delino's early years what it's like when a center fielder has all the speed in the world, but can't make good reads. And then, but then the difference that it makes and how big a difference it makes when they can actually make good reads and be just fast as all heck. I mean, gosh. I talk with Grant, but first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. This is the time of year I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but I'm sticking to the resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It makes it easy. They're so delicious. They're so good for you. They are so jam-packed with nutrients and all kinds of great stuff that you want in your protein bar. They also have Built Bar Puffs. If you tried these, if you haven't, you're missing out on one of the new best things that Built Bar does. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy. They're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They are a delicious treat, and they are covered in 100% chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors. Yummy, cinnamony, churro, coconut, marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. They're going to be your new favorite. All bars are covered in 100% chocolate. Yes, that includes the Puffs, 100% real chocolate. So, at Built Bar, they're all about taste, and, they make delicious taste first, and they're also healthy, but, you got to taste them. You got to, as much as I can use adjectives and words to describe how great these Built Bars are, you really got to try them for yourself to see that I am not full of it. I am telling the God's honest truths about how great these Built Bars are. So if you want to take me at my word, go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And now, my talk with Grant Schiller. It's kind of wild how good a job, especially defensively, like the coaches do of helping guys out. I was talking with a scout buddy of mine about one of the guys, what's his name? Elijah Green, and how like he is really, really fast, and people think, oh yeah, no, he's like potential 70 speed, but they're also putting him in right field, and like it people underestimate how good the defensive coaches are, especially for outfield, and how raw some of these kids are coming out of high school, and how much better people can get once they start getting in an actual minor league development system. Because, I mean, Delano didn't play that much outfield, but once he started actually doing it, they started actually coaching him for it. Like, he, especially even at the major league level, I mean, I'm sure those coaches are probably better, but like,
yeah, it was ugly when he made the transition at first.
It was real ugly. They had to stick him in left, and he was the fastest player on the field by far. It was kind of insane. I was like, how is this possible? But then he became one of the better defensive center fielders in at least the division, if not the American League.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Circling back to the question, I think Smith would probably be better out there than Duran. Durant's probably more of a corner guy if he has to go out there. It's an interesting problem to have because Duran's probably going to be in AA this year, yeah?
Yeah, I think so, because he was high A all year. He was high A with the Yankees and high A here, and then finished the season in the AFL and kicking butt.
So he'll go AA. Smith will probably start in AA again, and then end in AAA.
For AFL, what is the level equivalent? Because I've always thought it's like about between like high A and like AA, but I never had a really good grip on like how advanced it was. Or does it kind of just depend on the year and who's being sent there?
Yes, it does depend on the year who's being sent there. It's also going to kind of, to an extent, change game by game depending on the pitchers throwing in a game. Because you'll see guys from the upper levels. You'll see guys from the lower levels. Like it's really going to be a lot dependent just on who needs innings. So it's tough to really put an exact. If there is an exact level of play to put on it, I don't know it. At least I'm ignorant to that.
Okay. That's very unhelpful, but also very helpful. Which I feel like is the story of this podcast. But of these right-handed pitchers, I want to ask. I mean, besides the big one, I mean, obviously, I think it feels pretty obvious to say the guys who had the two best seasons in the whole system. Offensively, Josh Young, even though he missed 2 months, like he just crushed everything that could ever be asked for him.
And on the bump, Cole Winn.
Yeah, and Cole Winn. Because I mean, I went back and looked, and I'm like, I know he didn't do well in AAA, and then I went and looked back, and I'm like, oh, it was literally 2 starts in 8 innings. Yeah, that's not anything to judge when he was literally just dominating. And one of the things I went back looking at, I want to get into Cole Winn because he had such a great season. One of the things that really impressed me, and one of the things that it was one of the things that worried me about him before, because he was walking a crap ton of people in his last his first full and only full minor league season before this one, because of the deload thing. I think had a big, impact on him. But this year, he really cut down those walks to an insane level, and the opposing batting average against, I think it's something like 110 or something just crazy like that. Like a .8 whip, because he didn't walk anybody and he didn't allow any hits. And it was just like, man, nobody's reaching base against this guy.
Yeah, so the opposing batting average, I mean, there's a lot of factors. Some of it's just luck. Like,
no, it's all skill.
He had a 190 against in AA. Like that's just not sustainable. Part of it is that AA hitters were really bad this year in the Texas League. There were a lot of teams that just straight up couldn't hit. Amarillo couldn't hit. Corpus couldn't hit. There's a couple others that were just really, really bad.
It brings me a lot of joy to hear you say that an Astros team just sucked at something.
They were horrible.
After just producing guy after guy after guy. And I also saw a couple at one shortstop, I can't think of his name, but some other shortstop that's in the Astros system that was like consistently in top 100s. I was like, no, you're supposed to be out. You're supposed to be out of these guys. You're not supposed to just pull one of these guys out of your butt. Like, stop doing that, Astros. You're supposed to suck for a little while.
They're going to. I mean, it's a bad system. And they don't really spend money to keep their guys. So it's going to slowly and gradually and consistently go downhill for a little bit. Thankfully.
Thank God. Because they've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective.
I mean,
yeah.
Good God. I mean, literally, Bregman and Altuve and Correa and Kyle Tucker and also George Springer and when they didn't have a whole lot on the pitching side, and then this year, the last couple of years, I mean, they would just go make trades for guys who sucked and would come in like Garrett Cole and magically become Cy Young winners and take washed guys and make them also really good. Except they didn't do that for Zach Greinke. He was just
Future
okay.
Ranger great.
But then this year they pull a rotation of like 3-4 guys that are all really solid, like out of their freaking butts. Like, it's about time that their system sucked because they've been pulling guys that are way better than they should be for way too long.
They have been, yeah. From our perspective, by the time the Rangers are competitive again, like truly competitive again, it's probably the Mariners that are the biggest threat for a while.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, they've got a really loaded system, and it was wild to see, like, because they have obviously, Julio Rodriguez is the guy that's their next redonkulous guy who hits everything, and they've got like another pitcher who's in most of the top like 25s of 100.
They've got a few good pitchers.
They've got
Anderson
like
Hancock, I think, is the highest rated, but Matt Brash is really good. George Kirby. I mean,
Kirby's the one that I keep hearing about, and I also keep seeing him in the like 10 years down the road version of MLB The Show that I'm playing because I like to pretend that there's some baseball. They've also got some shortstop too. But like
Noel V. Marte.
That's the one, Noel V. Marte, because they've got just an absolutely stacked system. But I see all those like top 100 guys, and then some systems are like, there's some like, when they're rating the actual full system, like, oh yeah, you've got like 16 top 100 guys, and like half of those are in the top 10, but you're like the number 4 system. And I'm like, how is your math adding up on that? Like, I think BP gave them like, maybe 6 or 7 guys in the top 101, and I think ranked them like the number 3 system. And I was like, you're not
doesn't add up.
Especially since like the system they ranked number 1 was the Dodgers, and I'm like, a Dodger system is pretty good, but it's not anywhere near where it's been, I don't think. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline. Football season might be over, but basketball's in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number 1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, UFC odds, right to Olympics coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. But all these places are still ranking them in the, most elite system. But what's nice is seeing most of those places, I mean, take all those bad things I just said about their rating system overall. They put the Rangers in the top 10, which means they know something, and they know that the Rangers system is good. Because, I mean, consistently, that's where the Rangers have been used to being during John Daniels' tenure, and seeing them get back to that after years of, trying to keep that window open, which you can't blame them for doing, but also some poor draft decisions that have haunted them. And again, seeing they're basically half the top 5 most places. I guess Foscue, depending on wherever you want him. But seeing the last 4, I think, first round draft picks being in that top 5, top 10 range, especially seeing them at the very top of the board, is just something that brings me so much joy. And I was worried that would be the thing that would get John Daniels fired over anything, because that's the biggest thing that I think I've criticized him for. Besides like 1 or 2 really dumb trades that seemed like dumb trades at the time. Mm-hmm. But it seems like they've kind of figured that out, at least for now. And what a time to figure it out when you're actually having high draft picks. If you screw up on the top 10 draft picks consistently, you're
the Pirates.
You're handicapping your franchise for decades. Like, not just for a while. It's like, oh, what's the point of getting a top 1, top 2 pick if you're gonna pick a guy who sucks, or if you pick a guy who has potential and then you screw him up because your development system sucks. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the other part of it. Is like, you could pick the right guy, but your system just didn't help him out, then tough tushy.
Tough tushy indeed.
Any other thoughts you want to leave us with before we head on to our random Ranger about baseball exploits, or I don't know?
I think I'm ready for the random Ranger. I guess real quick, let me give out a shout out to my Ave Maria NAIA Gyrenes.
10-5-1
Swept the doubleheader when I went down to visit over Montreat from North Carolina. It was the Reens are hot.
Solid. Do you have yours ready? Because I am.
I do.
Okay, good. I'm glad you do.
I'm going to go with Florida State legend Marshall McDougall. Baseball Reference lists him as a pinch runner, third baseman, and right fielder. As far as I remember, he's a catcher. He played
a pinch runner who plays catcher. That's
right. Yes,
that is a unique one.
So he played in 18 games, had 18 plate appearances, struck out in 10 of them, and slashed 167, 167, 222. This is all back in 2005. Now, what he's probably better known for is a couple of things. Okay. So he was the prospect the Oakland Athletics traded to Cleveland in the Ricardo Rincon trade, which is heavily mentioned in Moneyball.
Quality movie.
And then, secondly, he was absolutely absurd in college for Florida State. His last year there, he had 2 years there, and he hit 43 home runs.
What?
His first year there, his was 419, 496, 804.
804. That means
yes.
that's Barry Bond. Also, I love that he hit
it's crazy.
419, and his on base was only like 60 points higher. He's like, no, I'm not waiting for your stupid walk. I'm crushing it.
Right, and you know he was in the college game. No pitches to hit.
What?
You know he was seeing no good pitches to hit in the college game, and he still was not walking.
That's great. I have intense respect. That's literally like all of my MLB The Show players. I'm like, I'm hitting like 420 on base, 430, slugging 800. That is impressive numbers. My random ranger, this is a 2014er. I honestly don't even really remember this guy playing. This is Brad Snyder. Played in 10 games in 2014 as a 32-year-old, 34 plate appearances, had 2 home runs, batting average of 167, on base of 265, slugged 400, a 665 OPS. That was the last place that he played baseball or professionally at the major league level. Only played 2 years before, 12 games with Chicago in 2010, and 8 games with Chicago in 2011. Didn't play for 3 years. Came back, made a triumphant return to the big leagues, and then with the worst. I'm going to go ahead and say that was a worse team. I don't know. Actually, there was a decent chunk of Adrian Beltre, so I don't know that I can say that. I think
I'd be interested to know what percentage of the 2014 Rangers never played in the big leagues again after that season.
Oh, it's got to be a pretty decent chunk.
It has to be.
I might say like up to like 20%, maybe higher.
Yeah, I think it might be 1 in 4.
It really feels pretty high because there's so many of those guys just like, all right, we got to get somebody. Oh, I think I'd already pulled Mike Karp, otherwise I was about to because that was a great one. But man, that 2014, that's the one that just keeps on giving. Okay, no, there was a Colby Lewis. There was Yu Darvish for 144 innings. So I don't know that I can say that. The bullpen actually, well, I guess this bullpen was pretty solid. But yeah, had 148 games of Adrian Beltre with an 879 OPS, which was bad for him. But I still don't think I can say that this was a worse team than this year's. There's also some Alex Rios. Gosh, some Alex.
There was Alex Rios.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure he was gone at the trade deadline. No, wait, he played 131 games for the Rangers, so maybe he wasn't gone at the trade deadline. Oh my gosh, what a mess of a season that was, but not nearly as big of a mess as the labor negotiations that are going on now. I'm hoping that I believe minor league spring training is happening no matter what players are reporting, I believe on Monday. So we're going to get minor league baseball, hopefully. I hope labor negotiations don't get so bad that they cascade into minor league baseball, because that would really suck. But no matter what, we're going to see some Jack Leiter hopefully this year. Hopefully in Frisco. I'm not sure when, but I'm curious, before you go, where do you think they start Leiter? Do you have any updated feelings or thoughts on that? Because I think my guess was high A.
I would agree.
I feel like that seems like a reasonable start. And then he goes and dominates there for half a season and comes up to Frisco. Hopefully by like July. We'll see. I just want to see at least one Jack Leiter start in person this year because I am owed that after the garbage I was forced to watch last year and the 60 games before it. But thank you guys so much for listening. If you're not already, go follow Grant on Twitter at OGShill. Follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.